The vast council chamber pulsed with quiet tension. Endless rows of alien delegates sat in perfect order. Their myriad forms ranging from shimmering light beings to hulking crustacean-like creatures. They all shared one common expression, a mix of concern and caution as they prepared to deliver a message that would shake the very foundation of one of the galaxy's youngest but fastest rising civilizations. At the center of the chamber, a holographic map shimmered, highlighting the rapid expansion of humanity's territories. Bright blue stars marked their colonies, each new one a testament to human innovation and ambition. In just a few short centuries, humans had leaped from a single world to a sprawling network of star systems. Their advancements in propulsion, artificial intelligence, and biological engineering had outpaced almost every other known species. The Galaxy Council was formed to maintain order, to keep balance among civilizations that sometimes viewed each other with suspicion or fear. And now, in the chamber's heavy silence, the council's spokesperson, a tall, slender figure with eyes like molten silver, stood to speak. "Humanity," the spokesperson began, voice steady and calm. "Your expansion and development have exceeded all expectations. Your achievements are remarkable. But there is a limit to growth, a point beyond which further advancement risks destabilizing the galaxy." The room fell even quieter. The phrase "limit to growth" echoed ominously in every listener's mind. "The Council hereby declares that humanity has reached its maximum allowable advancement," the spokesperson continued. "Further development, whether technological, territorial, or military, must cease. Failure to comply will result in sanctions to protect galactic peace." In that moment, across human worlds, millions stopped to listen. Scientists, soldiers, families. The message was clear, the warning undeniable. Humanity had been capped, a boundary set by those who claimed to represent the galaxy's best interests. But far from submitting, a fire sparked in human hearts. In the gleaming towers of New Washington, President Amina Salim stared at the council's broadcast. Her eyes narrowed, jaw set with fierce determination. "The Galaxy Council underestimates us," she said softly to her closest advisors. "They fear what we could become, not what we are. We will not be contained by their fears or their rules." News outlets across human space erupted with debate. Some feared the consequences of defying the Council. Others saw an opportunity, a call to prove that humanity's spirit could not be tamed. Meanwhile, in the corridors of human research centers, the brightest minds gathered. Dr. Elias Chen, a genius in quantum propulsion, paced with restless energy. "They think this limit will hold us back," he said. "But limits are meant to be broken. We will find a way, new engines, new energy sources, breakthroughs they can't imagine." In the shadows, covert groups began to mobilize. Some believed the Council's message was a bluff, a show of power to slow humanity's rise. Others suspected darker motives. Either way, they knew one thing for certain: the future they had planned of exploration and discovery was under threat. Across star systems, humanity's fleets grew quietly. New ships equipped with experimental technology that could outrun or outgun most known vessels. Elite pilots trained harder, pushing their skills to the edge. Soldiers prepared for a conflict they hoped to avoid but would face if necessary. Back in the council chamber, not all members agreed with the decision. Some whispered privately that the council was acting out of fear that humanity's rapid progress was a challenge to the old galactic order. But speaking against the limit was risky, and the majority voted to stand firm. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath, and then, in a signal broadcast across every human colony, President Salim addressed her people. "They want us to stop, to turn back," she said, voice steady and inspiring. "But humanity is defined by pushing boundaries, by reaching for the stars no matter the cost. The Galaxy Council may set limits, but we will prove that our spirit is limitless. Her words spread like wildfire. On distant moons and deep space. Stations, humans clenched fists and shared determined glances. This was no longer just about survival, it was about identity. About proving that humanity's place in the galaxy was not just accepted, but earned through courage and unyielding will. The stage was set, Galaxy's edge had been reached, but humanity was just beginning to push beyond. While the Galaxy Council's declaration echoed across human space. The real battle was just beginning, one fought, not in grand chambers or on distant battlefields, but in hidden labs, secret research stations, and the quiet corners of human industry, beneath the surface of the sprawling human territories. A network of minds worked tirelessly, fueled by defiance and ambition. In a concealed orbital station orbiting a gas giant on the edge of known space, Dr. Elias Chen stood before a vast console, eyes fixed on streams of data cascading down the displays. Around him, teams of scientists and engineers moved with purpose, adjusting parameters, testing simulations. The Council's limit was a challenge, but to them, limits were simply problems. To be solved, quantum propulsion efficiency up by 23%, Elias announced, voice tight with excitement. If this holds, we can reach stars in half the time previously thought possible. His assistant, Mara, nodded. It's more than speed, she said. With the new power cells, our ships will be harder to track and more resilient. The Council won't see us coming until it's too late. These breakthroughs were just the beginning. Across human space, similar projects pushed boundaries in artificial intelligence, genetics, and materials science. Machines learned to adapt and evolve without direct human input, turning ideas once dismissed as science fiction into reality. At the heart of it all was a single goal: to break the Council's grip on humanity's destiny. But secrecy was paramount. The Council's spies were known to infiltrate human systems, and the consequences of discovery were severe. Entire projects operated under layers of encryption and misinformation. Communication lines were routed through complex networks to avoid detection. Trust was a fragile commodity in the city of New Washington. President Amina Salim met with her top advisors in a secure bunker beneath the Capitol. The room hummed with the energy of urgent debate. We cannot afford to wait, Salim said firmly. The Council's threat is real, but so is our potential. We must harness every resource, every talent. But we must also prepare for the worst. Espionage, sabotage, these will come. Her chief of security, Commander Darius Vega, nodded grimly. We've already detected suspicious activity near several of our research stations. Small-scale sabotage. Nothing we can't handle yet, but it's a warning. As Salim spoke, the room's large display flickered to show news footage from the front lines of human expansion, colonists establishing new outposts, starships launching into uncharted sectors. Humanity was pushing forward, refusing to yield. Yet beneath the surface, something more profound was stirring. The Council's imposition had ignited not just defiance, but innovation born from urgency. The very restrictions meant to limit humanity, instead, sharpened their focus in one underground lab. Biologists worked with unprecedented speed to develop new bioengineered enhancement soldiers who could withstand extreme environments. Pilots with reflexes enhanced beyond natural limits. These advances blurred the line between human and machine, raising ethical questions that were put aside in the name of survival. Meanwhile, an elite group of diplomats and spies, known only as the Veil, operated in the shadows. Their mission was twofold: gather intelligence on the Council's moves and protect humanity's secrets from alien eyes. They used cutting-edge stealth technology and human ingenuity to slip through cracks in the Council's surveillance. Mara Now, a key liaison with the Veil briefed Elias. "We've intercepted encrypted council communications. They're watching us closely, but they don't know everything. We have time if we use it wisely." But time was a luxury few had. Rumors of internal council dissent spread among human analysts. Some council members believed the imposed limit was short-sighted, that humanity's drive could bring new ideas and strength to the galaxy rather than chaos. These cracks offered hope, yet the human leadership knew that hope alone would not be enough. They needed to prepare for inevitable confrontation in the silence of his lab. Elias allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. The council had tried to cage humanity to dictate what they could become. But like every challenge before, humanity's answer was clear. They would adapt, evolve, and rise. As the stars outside gleamed cold and distant, humanity's secret war beneath the surface had begun. And with every breakthrough, every whispered plan, they moved closer to a future no one, not even the Galaxy Council, could contain. The Galaxy Council's envoy arrived quietly, but their presence sent ripples of unease through the human worlds. Unlike the usual diplomatic processions filled with pomp and spectacle, this delegation moved with calculated purpose. Their steps measured, their eyes unblinking. Their message was clear. The council was serious, and they would not tolerate defiance in the bustling capital of New Washington. President Amina Salim prepared to meet the envoys face to face. The Grand Hall was filled with human and alien representatives, reporters and security personnel, all watching the moment when diplomacy would either hold or shatter. The council envoy's leader, a being called Thalanor, stood tall and cold. His translucent skin shimmered faintly under the chamber lights, and his voice carried the weight of the council's will. "President Salim," Thalanor began, "the council's limits are not arbitrary. They exist to preserve balance, to prevent a single species from dominating the galaxy's fragile equilibrium. Humanity's unchecked progress risks igniting conflicts that could engulf entire star systems." Salim listened carefully, her expression calm but firm. When it was her turn, she responded, "We understand the council's concerns. But the limits you impose do not account for humanity's unique history, our drive to overcome, to adapt, to evolve. To halt progress is to halt life itself." The exchange was tense, but civil. Both sides knew this meeting was more than words, was a test of wills. Outside the chamber, crowds gathered to hear the broadcast, emotions running high. Yet beneath the surface, darker currents swirled. Almost immediately after the envoy's arrival, critical human projects began to suffer mysterious setbacks. Power surges crippled advanced laboratories, data streams were corrupted, and prototype ships sustained unexplained malfunctions. Sabotage was suspected, but no one could confirm the perpetrators. Commander Darius Vega convened a security briefing in one of the government's most secure facilities. "These are not accidents," he stated grimly. "We're under attack, whether by rogue factions within the council or others who fear humanity's rise. We must be prepared." Investigations revealed subtle fingerprint salient technology signatures, crypted messages, and hacking attempts originating from unknown sources. The council denied direct involvement, claiming rogue agents acting without sanction. But within human intelligence circles, doubts remained. Amid growing paranoia, suspicion began to strain relationships between human officials. Some argued for immediate retaliation, others urged caution and diplomacy. Trust became a precious and fragile commodity. Meanwhile, Thalnor's envoy maintained a presence in human space, watching, reporting. They moved through cities and colonies, their calm eyes noting every detail, every whisper of dissent or hope. Some humans met them with cautious curiosity, others with outright hostility. Among the human people, a new leader began to emerge, Commander Lyra Cade, renowned for her sharp mind and fearless tactics. She believed that the Council's shadow was more than just oversight. It was a calculated attempt to weaken humanity from within. In a private meeting with President Salim, Lyra warned, "They want to sow chaos, break our unity. If we fracture now, we lose everything. We need to act decisively but carefully." Callum nodded, understanding the delicate balance. "We must protect our people and our progress, but without becoming the aggressors the Council fears. Strength is our spirit hand that must remain unbroken." At the same time, the Veil Humanity's covert network of spies and operatives worked relentlessly. They uncovered hidden transmissions, intercepted secret meetings, and tracked down agents attempting to sabotage critical infrastructure. One such mission led Mara deep into a remote asteroid belt, where a small sabotage cell was discovered. The operatives were swift, neutralizing the threat without exposing the full scope of their intelligence capabilities. It was a victory, but also a reminder: the Council's reach was long, and the war was already underway in the shadows. Back in the Council chamber, whispers of dissent grew louder. Some members questioned the wisdom of imposing limits on humanity so rigidly. Could this young species, so full of promise, become a force for unity rather than destruction? Others remained steadfast, convinced that caution was necessary at all costs as tensions mounted. The galaxy seemed to teeter on a knife's edge. Humanity faced not only external threats, but the internal challenge of maintaining unity in the face of fear and uncertainty. The Council's shadow loomed large, but beneath it, humanity's resolve hardened. The coming days would test the strength of alliances, the sharpness of minds, and the courage of individuals willing to fight not just for survival, but for the right to define their own future. The galaxy watched, waiting to see if humanity would break or rise. The tension across human space was palpable. The Council's shadow stretched farther than anyone had anticipated. Its presence felt in every corner, every lab, every colony, every starship deck. Humanity stood at a crossroads: defend what they had built, or risk everything by pushing beyond the Council's imposed limits, in the heart of human space. On the planet Ardent Prime, a training facility buzzed with focused energy. Here, the elite of humanity's military gathered: the pilots, soldiers, and strategists who would stand at the forefront of whatever conflict lay ahead. The sound of engines roaring, the sharp crackle of communications, and the rhythm of drills filled the air. Among them stood Commander Lyra Cade, the rising star of the Human Defense Forces. Tall, determined, and sharp-eyed, Lyra had earned a reputation for her unyielding resolve and tactical brilliance. Her experience in covert operations and rapid response missions made her the perfect leader for the challenges humanity now faced. During a briefing, Lyra addressed the gathered troops. "We do not know when the next attack will come, or from whom. But we know this: we will not be caught unprepared. Our technology is cutting edge. Our resolve is unbreakable. We will defend humanity's right to exist, to grow, and to reach beyond the stars." Her words ignited a fire in the room. Soldiers exchanged nods of agreement, their eyes shining with renewed purpose. This was more than defense, it was a declaration of identity. Meanwhile, in the command center high above the planet, scientists worked alongside military officers to integrate the latest breakthroughs into combat strategy. Dr. Elias Chen coordinated with the fleet's engineers to implement quantum propulsion systems into the newest starships. His excitement was tempered by the knowledge that every advance made humanity a target. "Speed and stealth will be our greatest weapons," Elias explained during a simulation. "We can strike quickly and vanish before they can respond. We control the battlefield." Outside the controlled environment of the training grounds, the political situation remained tense. President Amina Salim continued her efforts to balance diplomacy and defense. She met regularly with council envoys, pushing for dialogue while quietly preparing the people for a possible war. At the same time, whispers of dissent within the council grew louder. Some factions advocated for a softer approach toward humanity, arguing that open conflict would only fracture the delicate galactic order. Others called for stricter measures, seeing humanity as a dangerous wildcard that needed to be contained at all costs. Back on Arden Prime, the sudden arrival of a council fleet in nearby space sent a ripple through the human command. The council ships moved with deliberate precision, a show of strength meant to remind humanity of their limits. Lyra ordered the fleet to active patrol. "We observe, but do not provoke. Our goal is to defend, not to start a war we don't need." Yet, as the council ships maintained their presence, subtle signs of unusual activity appeared. Sensors detected anomalous energy readings near human installations, suggesting covert attempts at sabotage. Intelligence agents reported increased espionage and interference. In response, the Veil intensified its operations. Mara led a team deep into uncharted space to intercept a council supply convoy rumored to be carrying advanced weapons and technology for use against humanity. The mission was a success, but the cost was high. Several operatives were captured and the crew's stealth ship was severely damaged. Mara returned with grim news, but also valuable intelligence evidence that some council factions were preparing for conflict. Regardless of official diplomacy, in the midst of these mounting threats, a figure emerged who would soon become central to humanity's defense. Captain Yarrick Holt, a former smuggler turned starship commander. Yarrick was known for his daring tactics and instinctive leadership. He had a reputation for taking impossible missions and succeeding against all odds. When called upon, Yarrick accepted without hesitation. "If the council thinks they can bully us into submission, they don't know who they're dealing with," he told his crew. "We'll show them exactly what humanity is capable of." As the fleet readied for patrols and possible engagements, a storm was gathering not just in the dark, void of space, but within the hearts of those who stood on the brink of history. Humanity's defenders prepared for the trials ahead, knowing that the coming days would test every skill, every decision, every ounce of courage. The rising storm was no longer just a threat, it was an invitation, and humanity was ready to answer. The deep silence of space shattered one cold morning when the exploration ship Odyssey sent out an urgent distress signal. The vessel, carrying a team of scientists and colonists, had crossed into a sector beyond the Council's imposed boundary. Act that the Council considered a violation of their decree. Commander Yarrick Holt, now in command of a rapid response fleet, was already in orbit around a nearby human colony when the signal reached him. The Odyssey was under pursuit by a small fleet of Council patrol ships, their sleek forms cutting through the darkness with precision. Yarrick's voice crackled over the comms, steady but urgent. "This isn't just a chase. They want to make an example." The Council's ships demanded the Odyssey stop, to submit and return to authorized space. But the human crew refused. Their mission had been one of peaceful exploration, charting new star systems, searching for resources and knowledge. Surrender was not an option. From the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Alina Ramos stared at the Council ships closing in. Her fingers tightened on the controls. "We didn't come this far to turn back," she said quietly. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." Yarrick's fleet moved to intercept, racing to protect the vessel. Though smaller in number, the human ships were equipped with the latest propulsion technology and adaptive shields, advantages that made them hard to catch. The chase became a tense game of cat and mouse across the void. Council ships launched warning shots, laser bursts designed to disable, not destroy. But the Odyssey managed to evade the worst of it, weaving through asteroid fields and gravity wells with expert precision. Despite their advantage, the Council was relentless. Their commanders were determined to uphold the limit. to send a message that no species could defy the Council without consequence. Back on Ardent Prime, the entire human command followed the unfolding events with bated breath. President Amina Salim watched from the command center, her expression a mix of concern and resolve. "This is more than a standoff," she said to her advisors. "It's a test not just of our technology, but of our will." In a bold move, Jarek ordered his fleet to engage in a show of force, not to attack, but to protect. Human ships positioned themselves between the Council fleet and the Odyssey, their weapon systems powered but held at bay. "This is not an act of aggression," Jarek broadcast across Council frequencies. "We are defending our right to explore. To grow, humanity will not be bound by arbitrary limits." The message resonated across the galaxy suddenly. One of the Council ships fired a disabling pulse at a human escort vessel. The pulse scrambled its systems, causing the ship to drift dangerously close to an asteroid. Human pilots scrambled to stabilize it, but the act shattered the fragile piece in response. The human fleet launched a precision strike against the offending ship's propulsion systems, disabling it without destruction. The battlefield flashed with bursts of light, the sharp dance of lasers and energy shields. The Council fleet hesitated, surprised by humanity's swift retaliation. For the first time, the galaxy saw that humanity would not back down. Captain Ramos maneuvered the Odyssey toward a nearby nebula, hoping to use its dense clouds as cover. Yark's ships followed, shielding the vessel as the Council fleet retreated, unwilling to risk further losses. The encounter ended not with a decisive victory, but with a clear message. Humanity was awakened. They were no longer willing to accept imposed limits across human worlds. Celebrations erupted. The standoff became a symbol of defiance, of hope. People saw in the brave crew of the Odyssey the embodiment of humanity's spirit, undaunted, relentless, and free. But with the victory came a sobering realization. The Council would not forget this rebellion. Their watchfulness would only increase, and the path ahead promised more conflict. Back in the Council chamber, voices raised in shock and anger. Some called for immediate retaliation, others urged restraint. The balance of power was shifting, and old alliances trembled. For President Salim, the events marked a turning point. "We've lit a spark," she told her advisors. "Now we must be ready for the fire it may bring." Commander Lyra Cade prepared her forces for a future where skirmishes like this would no longer be isolated incidents. The storm had arrived, and humanity stood at its center, and as the stars glittered cold and distant beyond the nebula's edge, one truth shone brighter than all. Humanity's rebellion had begun. The spark of rebellion ignited a fire that no one could contain. Across human space, preparations accelerated. The once uneasy peace dissolved into a tense readiness as whispers of impending conflict became the dominant conversation in every city, colony, and starship. Commander Lyra Cade stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, her flagship staring at the stars ahead. The calm of space was deceptive. Beneath that serene blackness, the forces of two great powers edged closer to war. Her voice was steady but heavy with responsibility. This isn't just about defiance anymore. It's about survival. Behind her, the crew moved with precise efficiency, their training tested by the endless drills and simulations. Every pilot, engineer, and soldier understood the stakes. The Council's limits were no longer words on a decree. They were a threat to everything humanity had built. In a hidden command center deep beneath New Washington, President Amina Salim met with her closest advisors. Their faces were etched with concern, but none wavered in their determination. "We must expect retaliation," Salim said. "The Council will not allow our rebellion to go unanswered. But neither can we back down now. Our future depends on standing firm." Intelligence reports confirmed the Council's response. A massive fleet was assembling in a neighboring system, ready to enforce the limits by force if necessary. This fleet was larger and better equipped than any previously encountered, signaling the Council's resolve to crush the rebellion quickly. Yet, within the Council itself, not all voices favored war. Some members feared that a full-scale conflict with humanity could destabilize the galaxy, causing damage that no one could control. Quiet conversations behind closed doors spoke of alternative solutions, diplomacy, compromise, even shared governance. But those ideas struggled to find a foothold against the rising tide of fear and suspicion. As tensions mounted, the Veil intensified their covert operations. Mara led a strike team to intercept a Council communications relay station hidden on a remote moon. The mission was critical to disrupt the Council's coordination, and by humanity time, the operation was perilous. Council guards were ruthless, and the terrain was unforgiving. But the team succeeded, sending the relay offline and capturing valuable data on the fleet's movements. Mara's team returned with both triumph and loss. Several operatives had been lost in the mission. Back aboard the Vanguard, Lyra received the intelligence. "Every advantage counts now," she said. "We must be ready to fight not just with weapons, but with strategy and heart." In the midst of military buildup, scientists continued their breakthroughs. Dr. Elias Chen unveiled a prototype of a new defensive technology, shield system that could absorb and redistribute energy attacks, potentially neutralizing the Council's superior firepower. This could change everything, Elias told the military council. "It's still experimental, but if it works, it will give us the edge we need." Training accelerated, and the first ships equipped with the new shields entered service. The fleet's confidence grew, but so did the pressure. Every delay, every failure was magnified. Amid the turmoil, a mysterious figure emerged, an alien ambassador named Solari, known for her wisdom and deep knowledge of galactic politics. She reached out to President Salam with a proposal. Secret talks away from the Council's watchful eyes. Salam agreed, seeing potential in Solari's offer. The meeting took place on a neutral station orbiting a binary star system, far from prying. Solari's voice was calm and deliberate. "The Council fears humanity's rise because it challenges the old order. But there is a way to move forward. Both sides are willing to listen." The talks were tentative, filled with mistrust and careful words. Yet beneath the surface, a fragile understanding began to form. The future could still hold peace if humanity and the Council could find common ground back home. However, the growing forces on both sides reminded everyone that peace was fragile. As the shadow of war lengthened, humanity braced itself for the battle that would decide its place in the galaxy. The stars seemed colder now, the silence heavier. But beneath it all, the spirit of humanity burned brighter than ever. The silence of space was shattered by the distant thunder of weapons fire. The Council's fleet, vast and formidable, had entered human space, moving with relentless precision. Their goal was clear: enforce the limits by force, crush the rebellion, before it could grow beyond control. But humanity was ready. Commander Lyra Cade stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, eyes locked on the holographic battlefield before her. Starships of all sizes swirled in a deadly dance, energy beams and missile trails crisscrossing the void. "Maintain formation. Shield systems to maximum," Lyra ordered, voice calm but commanding. "Focus fire on the lead Council cruisers. We take them down first." The battle was fierce. Council vessels unleashed devastating volleys, but the new human shields absorbed much of the damage, redistributing energy to power counterattacks. Human pilots flew with desperate skill, exploiting every advantage in speed and maneuverability. Captain Yara Colt led a squadron deep into the heart of the Council's formation, targeting supply ships and command vessels. His reckless courage inspired his crew. Turning the tide at critical moments, this is what we fight for. Yarrick said comes for freedom, for the chance to define our own future. Despite their determination, the human fleet faced overwhelming odds. Council reinforcements arrived, their numbers swelling, their firepower intensifying. The Vanguard took a direct hit, sending shockwaves through the ship. Alarms blared as systems flickered. Lyra gritted her teeth. Damage report. Shields holding at 70%. Weapons systems stable. The chief engineer replied. We can keep this up, but not for long. Meanwhile, on the Odyssey, Captain Elena Ramos led her crew in a daring raid on the Council's flagship command center. Their mission: disrupt command and control to create chaos in the enemy fleet. The raid was a perilous success, using stealth technology and rapid strikes. The Odyssey crew sabotaged critical systems, cutting off communications and navigation in key Council ships. The ripple effect weakened the enemy's coordination, giving humanity a vital edge. Back on Ardent Prime, President Amina Salim and her advisors monitored the battle's progress, their faces tense but hopeful. The gamble on technology and training was paying off. But the cost was rising. Casualty reports streamed in, ships lost, brave souls gone. Yet the human spirit held fast. In the thick of the fight, Commander Lyra received an unexpected transmission Solari. The alien ambassador who had initiated secret talks had arrived in the combat zone. President Salim Solari's voice was urgent. There is a faction within the Council seeking to end this conflict. They propose a ceasefire and new negotiations. Lyra's mind raced. Could this be a chance to end the bloodshed, or a trap to weaken humanity's position? She relayed the message to Salim, who convened an emergency council. After tense deliberations, they agreed to a cautious ceasefire, an opportunity to test whether peace was possible. The ceasefire was announced across the galaxy and weapons fell silent, if only briefly. Both sides took a moment to catch their breath, to tend to their wounded and assess the costs in the aftermath. Representatives from humanity and the Council gathered on the neutral station where Solari had first proposed talks. The atmosphere was charged with suspicion and hope. President Salim spoke first. This conflict has shown what humanity is willing to endure to claim its destiny. But we do not wish to destroy what could be built together. Thalanor, the Council envoy, responded with measured words. The Council fears chaos, but also sees potential. We must find a new balance, one that respects humanity's strength without endangering the galaxy. The negotiations were long and difficult. Questions of autonomy, technology limits, and mutual respect hung heavy in the air. Yet, with each passing day, bridges formed where walls once stood. Back in human space, the scars of war were visible, the debris fields of shattered ships, the quiet mourning of lost friends, and the steely resolve of those who survived. Humanity had faced the Council's wrath and stood tall. As the talks progressed, new alliances began to take shape. Humans and Council members who believed in coexistence worked tirelessly to craft a future where limits could be revisited, where growth and peace might coexist. Commander Lyra Cade stood once more on the Vanguard's bridge, staring at the stars. The battle was not over. Perhaps it never would be. But the first steps toward understanding had been taken. The galaxy watched, waiting to see if this fragile peace would hold or if the clash of destinies would erupt once more. Humanity had proven one thing beyond doubt: their spirit was unbreakable, their will unyielding, and whatever the future held, they would face it together. The neutral station orbited quietly around its distant star, a symbol of hope amid the scars of war. Representatives from humanity and the Council gathered once again, this time not as adversaries, but as partners searching for a way forward. President Amina Salim stood before the assembly, her voice steady, carrying the weight of her people's hopes and sacrifices. "We have walked through fire," she said. "We have faced limits imposed from outside, and we have fought to define who we are. But now we choose a different path, one of conquest, but of cooperation." Around the chamber, eyes both human and alien reflected the gravity of the moment. The war had changed everything, but it had also opened a door. The Council's old decrees were no longer absolute. A new chapter was beginning. Thalanor, the Council envoy who had once delivered warnings, now spoke with a different tone. "Humanity's resilience and courage have shown us a truth long ignored. The galaxy is vast, and no one species can claim dominion alone. We must learn from one another if we are to survive and thrive." The negotiations that followed were difficult. Questions of autonomy, resource sharing, technology regulation, and cultural exchange tested every participant's patience and wisdom. But with each session, progress was made. Commander Lyra Cade, present as a military advisor, reflected on the journey from the first skirmishes to this fragile peace. "It was never just about defiance," she said quietly. "It was about being seen, being heard, and being respected." In the weeks that followed, new treaties were drafted, blending humanity's unyielding spirit with the Council's experience and structure. Limits became guidelines, adaptable to new discoveries and circumstances. Humanity was granted membership with full rights or recognition of their place among the stars. On Ardent Prime, celebrations erupted. People gathered beneath the twin suns, watching as ships bearing both human and council flags soared overhead. It was a dawn not only of peace, but of possibility. Yet, beneath the celebrations lay a solemn recognition. The galaxy was still vast and filled with unknowns. Challenges remained, ancient threats, unexplored worlds, and the ever-present need to protect what had been gained. President Salam addressed her people in a broadcast watched across many worlds. "Our journey is just beginning. We have shown that limits can be challenged, that unity can be forged from struggle. Together, we will explore new horizons, not as conquerors, but as partners." Commander Yarrick Holt led a fleet on its first joint mission with Council Forcessa, deep space expedition into uncharted regions. His crew was a blend of humans and Council members, each bringing unique skills and perspectives. Captain Alina Ramos, piloting the Odyssey, was among them. "This is what we fought for," she said. "A future where discovery is shared, where every star can hold a new story." The Veil, humanity's one secret network, shifted focus from defense to exploration and diplomacy. Mara, now a senior intelligence officer, worked to build trust and transparency, ensuring that the shadows of the past would not return. As the galaxy turned, new alliances formed, old prejudices softened, and the endless dance of diplomacy and discovery resumed. For humanity, the battle had never been just about technology or territory. It was about identity, the refusal to be confined by limits set by others, the will to reach farther and dream bigger. And as the stars stretched out before them, infinite and inviting, humanity stepped forward into the new dawn. The galaxy was no longer a place of boundaries and fears. It was a place of endless possibilities, and humanity was ready.